If you clicked on this English lesson, that means one of three things. You are trying to improve your English, you like learning about world news, and you are taking the IELTS or the TOEFL exams. Maybe all three of those are true. In today's English lesson, we will discuss the assassination of a powerful world leader. As always, I will not give my opinion. I am just the teacher, but we will talk about difficult vocabulary words you might hear if you are watching the news. We'll talk about some English idioms you might see on the IELTS or TOEFL exam, but they also appear in the news. And we'll talk about one pesky phrasal verb. All of the information we talk about today can be found in the description below if you want to use it as a sort of study guide. Let's get right into it. I am going to read a summary of the news article. All of the words you see in dark black are words we will talk about later in the lesson. A recent news story reported that a leader of Hamas was killed in an airstrike. The attack took place at a compound after the military gathered intelligence. The event led to casualties and has made the situation more serious. With concerns about possible retaliation, some countries are thinking about sanctions in response. One thing we should probably discuss at the beginning is what is Hamas in simple English. Hamas is a group that controls the Gaza Strip, a small area in the Middle East. It is known for being involved in conflicts with Israel and has a militant wing that conducts attacks. Many countries, including the United States and the European Union, consider Hamas a terrorist organization. They also provide social services like schools and hospitals in Gaza. Hamas wants to establish an Islamic State in what they see as historic Palestine, including Israel. This is a headline you might see on the internet. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh is killed in Iran by an alleged Israeli strike, threatening escalation. We should probably talk about who Ismail Haniyeh is. Ismail Haniyeh is a senior leader in Hamas, a group based in the Gaza Strip. He has held many different important positions, including being the prime minister of the Palestinian Authority and a key political figure in the region. Ismail Haniyeh is known for his leadership role within Hamas and his influence in Gaza politics. For each term we talk about, I will have a simple definition, and I will also use that term in an example sentence. Hamas. Again, here is the definition. A group in the Middle East that controls the Gaza Strip and often has conflicts with Israel. Hamas is known for its militant activities and political control in Gaza. Militant. We will talk about that in a minute. It sounds kind of like military, doesn't it? A lot of times when you are reading news articles or watching TV in English, you will hear intelligence. Now, that is different from someone who is intelligent or smart. Intelligence, in this case, is information gathered to help make decisions, often used in military or security contexts. The military used intelligence to plan the airstrike. So this assassination just happened a few hours ago, so it's not known who exactly carried out this attack. We will talk about that phrasal verb later. But if it is Israel, they probably used intelligence to find out where he was. You know, like using computers to find out information. Another word you might see when reading the news in English is, unfortunately, casualties. Casualties, people who are injured or killed in an event like a conflict or an accident. So the attack not only killed Ismail Haniyeh, but the airstrike also led to several casualties. Other people were also injured. You can't read or listen to the news for very long without hearing this word, retaliation. Retaliation, what does that mean? An action taken in response to harm or an attack. So you can imagine if the leader or one of the leaders of Hamas was killed or assassinated, Hamas is going to retaliate. They are probably going to try to hit Israel back. Here is a sentence using retaliation. The group promised retaliation after the leader was killed. We've been talking a lot about the Gaza Strip, at least that's what we call the area in English. Just in case you don't know, the Gaza Strip is a small piece of land in the Middle East controlled by Hamas. It's like right next to Israel, bordering Israel and Egypt. The Gaza Strip often experiences conflict and tension. If you have seen some of my other English lessons using the news, we've talked about both conflict and tension. What is the Middle East in English? Hopefully that map will help you, but I think this definition will help as well. The Middle East is a region that includes countries like Israel, Egypt, and Iran, known for its complex political and cultural history. Complex means it's very hard to understand. There are so many friends and enemies in the region, it can get pretty confusing. Here is a sentence using the term the Middle East. The Middle East has many ongoing conflicts or fights. If you are learning lots of English from this video, do you mind hitting that like button? It helps others find the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Militant Wing. We have talked about this. I mentioned that militant sounds like military or the army or soldiers. So think about that when you hear militant wing. What is it? It's a part of an organization that engages in fighting or violent actions. So earlier we talked about how Hamas will create hospitals or schools, but there's also a militant wing of Hamas. And that part of Hamas is in charge of fighting. The militant wing of Hamas is responsible for many attacks. Okay, this is a tricky one. Terrorist organization. What is it? It's a group that uses violence to achieve political goals and is labeled as such by various countries. Many countries consider Hamas a terrorist organization. So be careful. In English, we have this saying, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. There are some people in the world that don't consider Hamas a terrorist organization. Some people believe that Hamas or the fighters in Hamas or the politicians of Hamas are trying to win freedom for a group of people. And some people might call those people Palestinians. Islamic State, that adjective, Islam, Muslim, think of that religion. What is an Islamic State? It's a government or region governed by Islamic law, often sought by groups with political and religious motives. So the government would be both political and religious. Hamas hopes to create an Islamic State in the region. You will see this word a lot when reading the news in English. Alleged. Alleged. It's a term people love to use when a person or a group hasn't been found guilty yet. Like maybe it happened. Maybe they did the crime. So here's the official definition. Claimed or supposed. Maybe, but not proven. Might not be true. The alleged leader of the group was targeted in the airstrike. We need to talk about airstrike. It's coming up soon. Assassination. I have talked about this before. Our former president in the United States had an attempted assassination on him, President Trump. What is an assassination? Well, it's a killing. It's a killing, but not just of anybody. It's somebody special. Killing a famous person for political reasons. The assassination of the Hamas leader shocked the region. In a lot of the news articles I've been reading, I've seen this word, compound. Compound has a few meanings in English, but when we're talking about this story, it means a group of buildings enclosed by a fence. The compound was believed to house several high-ranking officials. You probably know the noun house, but we also have a verb, housed. That means like somebody is staying in a building. Airstrike. I've said this a couple times. What is it? A military attack from the air. The airstrike targeted a key Hamas compound. All right, we need to do it. English idioms. These things are tricky in hot water. You probably know what water is, and you probably know what hot is. But the idiom in hot water has nothing to do with hot water. You can't translate these idioms. In hot water, that means like somebody is in trouble. Israel finds itself in hot water after the assassination. Remember, we talked about retaliation. Israel can be expecting some retaliation from Hamas and who knows, maybe some other countries in the region. The ball is in your court. Another idiom. When I hear this, I think of basketball, just like the pitcher. But no, it has nothing to do with basketball. It means it's your decision now. After the airstrike, the ball is in Iran's court. It is their decision to retaliate or not. And I just used Iran as one example. There are other examples of who might retaliate. Midnight oil. You probably know what midnight is, very, very late at night. You probably know what oil is. It's dark, black. You put it in a car to make it run better. In the picture, there are what we call oil derricks. But burning the midnight oil has nothing to do with that. It means staying up late, working, or studying. The team burned the midnight oil to analyze the situation. You can imagine a lot of people in charge in Israel or in charge of Hamas. They are burning the midnight oil. They're not sleeping a lot. They are probably planning for their next action. All right, phrasal verbs. I only have one for you in this English lesson, but it is carry out. What does that mean? It means to perform or complete a task. The military carried out the airstrike early in the morning. I would say I hope you have enjoyed this English lesson, but it was pretty grim. We talked about a lot of violence. So instead, I will say I hope you have found this English lesson useful. If you are looking for more English lessons like this with the news, right down there is over 2 hours of English with the news. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.